So we haven't done a compassion, a heart-opening practice in a while. And it is always really good to balance out our wisdom practices, our wisdom, the wisdom teachings, our concentration meditation or samatha or vipassana, mantras, with also opening the heart as well. It really connects us back to what's, it is a portal. It is an easy access portal to touching what is real, to touching the awareness, the universal consciousness, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. When we open the heart, and kindness, I think, such an accessible practice for us, and a practice for us to keep remembering. The reason I asked you to think about some acts of kindness that you've done, because I know every single one of you here has done many acts of kindness. And while I'm not trying to get us to make some image out of this of us being kind, because any image is not taking us to what's real, it is also, conventionally speaking, good for us to remember all of the acts of kindness as well. We tend to focus on all of, the mind tends to look for problems, tends to look at ourselves in a very unkind way. Right? We remember our flaws, we remember every mistake we've made, every stupid thing we've ever said, every relationship challenge we've ever had. And we don't often think about the things that we've done that were really kind. And again, just to remember that spontaneousness of the act of kindness that just arises within us, it is the understanding that we are connected. Why else would we go out of our way, right? So it really is this, when it's, I should caveat that, sorry. When it's altruistic kindness. Because of course we can be practicing strategic kindness, which is from the ego, where we're looking for something to get out of it. But I think in that, most times in the kindness, that spontaneous act of kindness, it's just a stranger. It's someone, there's nothing you can get out of it other than that feeling good from helping someone, from letting them go in front of you by offering them a compliment. You're in line together and you kind of have a laugh about the fact that we're all stuck in line together or something, right? So there is, it very often is just this altruistic act of kindness. We're in this together. And it's good for us to remember those acts of kindness as well. Again, not to make an image out of it. We have to be so careful of those images. Because, of course, those images can be so easily shattered. When we're having a relationship challenge, someone's being unkind to us, someone's trying to hurt us, right? When people are hurt, their strategy for trying to alleviate that hurt, if they're doing it unskillfully, is often to try and hurt you. And the only way that we could feel hurt, we could feel that initial hurt. Sorry, there is an initial hurt. But if it lingers, if it's something that we're carrying around with us, and we find we're pushing back in our heads, we're trying to defend ourselves, we're trying to put them down because they put us down, that's because there was an image of us that got shattered. That's why we don't want to make anything out of a kind image. I'm a kind person, right? The kind acts, what are we touching through the kindness? Yes, use that. But don't turn yourself into a kind person, another image, because inevitably you will have someone being unkind to you, someone trying to hurt you. There's a lot of hurt people in the world. A lot of hurt people in the world. And we have to remember on the spiritual path, it does not mean that people won't be unkind to us or they won't try and put us down, that they won't try and hurt us. And when things are going very well, when the conditions are good and everyone is being kind to us and everyone is saying nice things about us, not to get too complacent there, not to make that into something. Oh yes, I'm so getting this because everyone's being kind to me. That's when we have to take those good conditions and apply more effort into our practice, because we 100% know those conditions are going to change. It is not going to take long before someone is now being unkind to us. So to remember, when we're experiencing good conditions, when we're experiencing peaceful conditions, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and of course let's all enjoy those good conditions, to not get lost in any image, to not turn it into anything, an image of me, peaceful. We've talked about the peaceful image in the past. Well, we talk about the images a lot because that's where the problem arises, the image. Who else could be hurt? Of course we can feel the initial hurt when someone says something to us unkind. We're not trying to be psychopaths here or sociopaths, right? We want to feel, and we should feel that initial hurt, absolutely. And comfort ourselves, self-compassion. Well, that was a little harsh. That was a little hard. Bring ourselves back into our experience to be with what's here. Maybe to examine, is there something I need to be looking at there? Is there something helpful? Right? But then to be able to let it go, because if we can't let it go, if we carry it around with us the rest of the day, if we keep saying to ourselves, they shouldn't have said that, I should say this. If we're trying to prove ourselves, defend ourselves, put someone else down, that's also our go-to there. Well, they're just a jerk. They're suffering. They need to meditate more, right? Just all the little ways that we try and put them down. 100%. You have created an image of yourself. That's what's suffering. The attachment, the identity to the image, the ego, right? This is what, where we've talked about through the whole ego series, which we're always talking about, or at least I think every spiritual teacher is talking about. This is the problem. This misidentification with an image. And that image being so dependent upon what others think of us, dependent upon what we think of us. Not recognizing, right? The wisdom would tell us our perceptions of how we are perceiving ourselves is always changing. Always changing. As fleeting as little soap bubbles pop up. Blow the little bubbles. That's how fleeting our perception of ourselves is. I'm great 1 minute. I'm this. I'm something. The next minute, I'm horrible. I'm a kind person. I'm an unkind person. I'm an intelligent person. I'm an idiot. I'm great at this. I suck at this, right? These perceptions constantly changing. Constantly changing. And yet we hold on to each and every single one of these images as though they're true, as though they're fixed, as though they are reality. This is the point of meditation, of mindfulness, of compassion. All of these practices helping us to see you are not this image. Don't get lost in it. Don't get lost in it. Because every time you get lost in the image of me, pushing back, trying to prove yourself, trying to defend yourself, trying to put someone else down, you are watering all the seeds of anger and resentment and judgment, of jealousy, of regret, of feeling unworthy, unlovable. That's the practice that you are doing in that moment. Not the practice you want to be doing. So really identifying that image more often. Noticing if you're hurt, and it's something that happened hours ago, a day ago, let's say. There is, we do have to give ourselves a little bit of a break to be with to be with the hurt as well. Give ourselves a little bit of time to be with the hurt. We're not trying to push it away. But to notice whenever we're getting lost in the image, again, we're proving something, we're defending, we're putting down, we're pushing back. That's not being with the hurt. That's being attached to the image that's hurt, not allowing us to be with the person that's hurt, to be with ourselves, with the hurt feelings, not allowing us to be with the feeling of hurt. It's okay to be with our feelings. We need to be with our feelings. It should hurt if someone is unkind. It shouldn't hurt for days. We shouldn't be trying to prove or defend ourselves. That's happening up in our thoughts. That's happening with the image. That's where we're watering all the seeds we don't want to be watering. So just be careful on this path. Be careful when the conditions are good and everyone's being nice. Just know that's going to change. It's going to change. Don't get attached to that. If we make that the conditions for being peaceful, then our peace is conditioned. That's not what we're doing on the spiritual path. We are practicing to see, to settle the mind, to see the thought habits and patterns, to see how the mind keeps going out and making an image out of things, to see those patterns so that we can then pull ourselves back, to keep coming back into seeing like, oh, that's not who I am. I'm not that image. And it's just such an easy trap for us to get lost in when the conditions are good. So I'm not trying to burst anyone's bubble when the conditions are good. Definitely appreciate them. Have gratitude. Just don't make any image out of it. And be prepared. Be prepared. These conditions will change. They will. There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that they won't. Zero doubt in my mind they will change. They will change. They absolutely will. They do for everyone. It does not matter who you are. Everything in the world is impermanent. So if you're having everything's working, everyone's being kind, it's inevitable. It's going to change. It doesn't mean it has to go to its extreme, but something will start to wobble a little bit. There'll be a misunderstanding somewhere, a miscommunication. And not to get lost in that. To recognize, yeah, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yes, if we've done something wrong, if we were part of that miscommunication and we feel we should apologize, absolutely apologize. Of course. Of course. Practice Tonglen. I'm often recommending that as a practice that I do at the end of my own meditations. I always do a couple minutes of Tonglen at the end because the compassion part is a huge part of our practice. It is an equal part, wisdom and compassion. We need, in Tibetan Buddhism, we say the bird needs 2 wings to fly, just as we need the wing of wisdom and compassion in order to awaken. So making sure as well that when you're in your spiritual practice, that you are doing compassion practices, simply like the kindness practice that we did already, or a gratitude practice, a loving kindness practice, a Tonglen practice, the more traditional compassion practice, right? Doing something that is also opening the heart. Compassion is not an intellectual exercise. And it's very easy to take the wisdom teachings and just become very intellectual with them and think we're getting it. No one's getting the wisdom teachings without an open heart. It's not happening. Your heart has to be open for the intellectual for the wisdom teachings to go from an intellectual understanding down into a place of knowing. It's when the heart is open that that it happens, that the insights really grow. So making sure that we are balancing out our practice as well with compassion practices, with kindness practices. I have a whole, on my teacher's page, we did 7 weeks of kindness a year ago. I think it was a year ago on our Sunday Sanghas, on an Insight Timer. And, kindness, such a good practice. Not making an image out of me being kind. I'm constantly referencing that through the whole series. But, actively practicing kindness. Actively practicing gratitude when appropriate. Not in the moment that I've been hurt. That is not the appropriate time to practice gratitude. That's the time to be with my hurt. That's the time for self-compassion. A different heart practice, right? And to understand that in this hurt, because in all the challenges that we face, this is also where I grow. This is where I see if I'm creating the images again. Where that suffering, that tightening up happens, it's where I start to see, if the suffering is still here, different from just being with the hurt, the pain of the hurt, the suffering, the story. If the suffering is still here, I must be making an image out of this somewhere. I am misidentifying who I am. Okay, apparently I needed to see that. Right? And so you see it. Yes, there it was. Here I was defending myself again. I thought I was done with that, but perhaps it was just the good conditions. Okay, no problem. No problem for it, because you saw it. Great. You saw it. Fantastic. Right? The moment you see it, like, fantastic. Great, I saw it. Yep. Yeah, that tendency is still there. Okay, I do need to be, mindful of this image. I need to be extra mindful when the conditions are good. To appreciate those good conditions, but to make sure that I am not misconstruing the peaceful conditions for wisdom. The wisdom and compassion that holds us in the center through the ups and downs of life, through the impermanence, the good conditions, the unpleasant conditions, the winning, the losing, the praise, the criticism, the blame, right? The comfort, the discomfort, right? That, all these things are changing. And it will be that way always. There's not some awakened state that you get to that means that you don't ever get criticized or that you don't ever make a mistake or that someone doesn't misunderstand something that you're doing. It's simply that there's not there's no attachment to an image around it. So there's no suffering. That's what we're trying to do. That's what this path is to end the suffering. The pain is inevitable. We can't avoid it. The suffering is optional. I can't remember who said that. Someone said that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And it's such a good saying. Because it just reminds us, we're all going to experience difficult times. But the suffering, that's what we're doing. We're doing the suffering in the pushing back, in the proving, in the putting down. putting down ourselves or putting down others. That's where the suffering is coming from.